morning. Today on the Hostage Diaries, I'm going to discuss once again utilization of possession in order to usurp and distribute power set with percentages and precedences. One of the reasons of such a controlled substance environment and the many ancillary and subsidiary channels is to enrich the power of the pillaged possessions. And I never gave much credence or credibility to the whole notion, but then again, it seems that other people have utilized them rather than it's back to the genetics or the created possession powers that is distributing the power while relegating the genetics to a captive state as motive and method. One of the most uh, one of the possessions that I've seen that has given a lot of credibility is this. I received a 22 Marlin, which is a company that was founded in New Haven, Connecticut, and then relocated to Madison, North Carolina. This was given to me by my father for a confirmation present. And what I seem to think has happened is that sets the precedence. Is that relegating to a certain type of or a certain type of being? Was the transformation into that sort of creature? Because it does seem like that I have been the reeled-in fish for a long time. Not to mention, I remember giving my cousins a copy. I gave them a whole bunch of books, but one of them happened to be Old Man in the Sea, where the old man catches a marlin, but then the sharks eat it, and he finally gets it back to shore, and it's all been eaten up, and his fight was all for naught. It's all the struggle over nature and survival. Well, what happens with these possessions? So we've got a 22 marlin. But what does that really? What's the real validity from New Haven, which is where Yale exists? So you could transform that. There's also I've got a shotgun, a Mossberg that was from Ithaca, New York. So what is that? What can that be derived into? That goes back to the old adage that I was talking about before. A quarter with a picture of what's the it's all about symbology. What it's really worth or what it's seen as worth. So these guns, and there are other possessions. Like I said, I really most of my life is gone. Everything, I mean, from my Stretch Armstrong, to my Hot Wheels from a kid, the video games, the computers, everything. And it was mostly because I just never. I mean, I haven't had a room and can't even remember. And all I really and that's also relegated me to impoverished status to increase the power of these possessions. So the possessions that were usurped or pillaged through whatever methods, and I think it all goes back to this dungeon mentality of, and well, this is a story that's an example. When I was at St. Thomas More Elementary, we used to play Dungeons and Dragons just for fun. I had a vast imagination. And so we played against these guys, and they took all our took all the possessions that we had, and it's just set this precedence. I know it's archaic and childish, but then again, when you look at this notion of this TL thing, and I am constantly reminded of the TL, and that's from when I was 6 years old, when I uninvited this mean kid from her birthday party. But it set the precedence that keeps haunting me to this degree, this day. I mean, there's a lot of things from my childhood that seem to have stuck in order to set a precedence that by me being a captive state of, I don't have the ability to free myself from this captive state. So therefore, I'm relegated, or these different hauntings are able to be inflicted upon me. So the 22 Marlin and the 20 gauge shotgun, what does that symbologically actually, what could that be construed into? I mean, could it be considered the military? I mean, in all honesty, I mean, you would have to, I mean, but how would you transfer the power? You would have to, it would take extreme torture and brainwashing, I, which was inflicted upon me. I mean, obviously I was tortured. They wanted me, a lot of my power came from the nation. So they had, by torturing me, they were trying to turn me against the nation, therefore to usurp the power in order to keep me controlled by the system itself, in my theoretical estimation. So to relegate power to these possessions rather than the genetics, and the genetics got hacked, obviously, by several methods, most notably the caste systems that lower the alpha to the omega, and then also stuck in the JV caste system. Therefore, I mean, and it really, it's amazing how, and it's all predicated through captivity. I mean, I could buy a new possession. I could go buy a new 22 Marlin for next, $100, but I'm not, it's kind of one of those things that I never gave a lot of credibility to it, and so they utilize the power of the dark arts. And it also goes into the notion of choosing to use hostages rather than building bridges. It's like they would rather use extortion and leverage and keep control in order to be cheap, first of all, and it's like they chose to bury me rather than build me up. And there's all sorts of this is obviously the worst case scenario. Obviously, it's been taken way out of context. And what happens is because I am exposed, and there's all sorts of industries built, and there are good industries and there are bad industries. And what I'm saying when I'm saying bad industries is because it basically is starving me to death because of all of the subsidiary ancillary um, angles that are played upon it based upon exposure. The exposure is a key aspect of this whole mentality. So that's where you get into just piling it on, piling it on. You've got a lot of illegal factions utilizing, but they also hide under the halo umbrella of the legal, like they're building ships, utilizing power, obviously. Whereas they could have used me for negotiations, rather they're going to use me for extortion. It's a matter of building a bridge or blowing up a bridge and then using extortion strong-arm tactics. That's the differentiation, in my estimation, as to why and what's actually going on. So we've got these possessions that are extracting the power and distributing for control. It's like a lucky rabbit's foot or leprechaun, or like I said before, you've got the various golden geese that are laying golden eggs, and they take these golden magic eggs and they produce other products for them. Not to mention the possession, captivity, controlled existence, controlled substance, existence, the shrunken, like it really is like drugs, controlled, shrunken, highly volatile, controlled. And sure, there can be, in some aspects, deemed power or certain things, but it's all and it's based upon the precedence of energy. Anybody can plug into the wall, so does that set it, and energy is equal, so does that set the precedence of exposure, which I find irreparable because of it's a gamble. I mean, it truly is a gamble. I mean, you have to use this extortion strong-arm tactic in order to maintain control. Just because you wanted to be reverent and teach lessons that cost, I mean, really expensive lessons that my family's cost, because we are forced into this controlled substance existence rather than, I mean, there are other, it's basically they're utilizing the notion of the birthright because I am deemed the eldest heir, and I have therefore the most power. So by keeping me captive, they're not going to let anybody else in the family. You could have diverted control of an estate or corporation to other members, but they won't even let us get that far as I can tell. So it is strictly based upon the controlled substance captivity in order to maintain, and then all the subsidiary, ancillary, gray area plugins that are costing just tremendous. I mean, it truly is a gambling state of affairs.